Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. First of all, we want to apologize for the delay in this meeting. We are experiencing some technical difficulties this evening, and we had a very lengthy public comment. My name is Mary Rosado, and I'm the council president for the Court of Common Council of the City of Hartford, and I'm calling to order this regular scheduled meeting of December 14th, 2020. For our viewers, you can view this council meeting via Hartford Public Access on Facebook and Channel 96 through Comcast. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll? Mr. Clerk, we can't hear you.
Are you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. New headphones. Sorry.
It's okay.
Councilman Bermudez.
Present.
Councilman Clark.
Here.
Councilman Gale.
Here.
Councilman LeBron.
Here.
Councilman Mishton.
Here.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Present.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Here.
Councilman Sanchez.
Present.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And now our town clerk will lead us onto the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we suspend the rules to add the following items onto as a part of the supplemental agenda for our meeting, which is item number 21, a resolution to appoint Leticia Marulanda to the Internal Audit Commission as council's designated appointee. Item number 2, resolution requesting that the chief of police report on the status of implementation of the performance appraisals, community sensitivity training, restorative justice, and an update on the Deadpool disciplinary actions. Item number 23, resolution requesting that the Court of Common Council approves further amending the amended settlement agreement to extend the time by which Shelbourne Properties can respond to the Historic Preservation Commission's concerns and obtain the necessary permits and approvals for for a period of 30 days. Item number 24, which is a resolution with a replacement, which is a resolution concerning the results of the investigation Deadpool. If text deemed termination of employment is warranted, that termination is applied immediately, and that this investigation be extended to include officers who are found deliberately undermine, and make false claims to and about the command leadership of HPD to be severely disciplined to the extent legally sustainable up and to including termination. And item number 25, which is a tentative agreement for Local 716, which is our Hartford Firefighters Unit.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Just for clarifications, Councilman Clark, do we have the tentative agreement for firefighters under the suspension of the rules?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. A motion has been made and properly second. Are there any questions, any discussions? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we approve the minutes of the September 28th, October 13th and 26th, November 9th and 23rd meetings of 2020.
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any questions or discussions? Any questions or discussions? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I would like to ask for a clarification. Can we consider item 25 and 26 as is indicated as the same item, which is the tentative agreement of Local 760?
This is
You might need clarification through you, by our corporation counsel. I just want to make sure that we are okay.
It appears that if you said 25 was the firefighters contract, that's down for action. I don't know what 26 is.
Yeah, what is 26?
Mr. Clerk, for clarification purposes, please.
Number 26.
Yes.
Number 26 is the firefighter, and number 25 is a resolution by Councilman Sanchez.
So what's number 24?
Yeah, Councilwoman Sanchez's resolution has been 24.
24, I'm sorry, 1 minute.
So for clarification purposes, when Councilman Clark, when you did the suspension of rules, did you add Councilman Sanchez's?
Yes, through you, Madam President. Yes, I did. It was number 24. I indicated that there was a replacement because Councilman Sanchez did put a replacement in, which I believe just bears his name only, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I'm getting
There's
clarification.
a resolution also of your resolution also, correct? So we have two resolutions, the one introduced, the first one that you introduced regarding the police, and now the one that Councilman Sanchez has.
Madam President,
Yes.
Howard Rifkin. I think, and Councilman Sanchez can clarify this, I believe he asked that his name be removed from resolution item number 24. Item number 25 on the supplemental agenda is the firefighters contract.
Thank you for that clarification, Howard.
Is there an item 26 on this agenda then?
I'm getting clarification from 6, so there's seemed to be an item 26, but there was item 25 that we had gotten earlier. So let me get clarification on the order of those numbers for you.
Council President,
Yes, Councilwoman Rossetti.
I was under the impression that 22 was the original, for a better term, Deadpool resolution that we put in, and that 24 was the one that Councilman Sanchez put in.
That is my understanding.
Okay.
Councilman Sanchez?
Yes, I'm looking at the resolution right now. It does have the number 25 on it as a resolution to be walked onto the floor under suspension of the rules. And I agree with Councilwoman Rossetti that 22 is the original.
So, Councilman, your resolution is a replacement, which is item number 25.
Well, I'm looking at it now. It says agenda item number 25 to be added under suspension of rules. That is what I'm looking at. And then I'm looking at the other resolution, which is resolution item number 22, which is the one Councilwoman Rossetti is talking about. And let me see. And
there, Councilman, there is a 24.
There is a 24. Let me scroll down.
The 2024 mirrors what 25 is.
Okay, so yes, I see now. So what happened is that item number 24 had all council members' names on it, and I had sent in a corrected version with just my name because I did not get a response from anyone in time.
All right.
So 25 replaces 24.
I got it. So thanks for that clarification. So therefore, we need to.
So Councilman Clark, for clarification purposes, I'm getting text messages from the public. They would like a clarification as to what resolutions are under the suspension of rules that were walked on the floor today or introduced.
Madam President, if I may.
Yes.
I believe that item 25, part of the supplemental agenda, is the Hartford firefighters contract.
Thank you.
22 and 24 are both related to the issue involving the Hartford Police Department.
Thank you for clarification. So a motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Gale?
What motion? I'm confused. I thought the majority leader was about to make a motion on the consent calendar, but we were confused because nobody knew what 26 was.
It's like there is no 26. We end at 25. And 25 would be local 760, which is the Hartford firefighter tentative agreement.
No, it's not.
So
Okay.
did you in fact make that motion?
No.
Okay, so let's start all over again. Councilman Clark, you have the floor.
The motion, please.
If you can take the motion again, please.
Since we do have clarification, through you, Madam President, I would like to make the motion that we place the following items on the consent calendar, which is item number 1. Hold on, sorry. Item number 1, which is Mayor Bronin with a company resolution to amend the city's consolidated plan of 2015 to 2020 and annual action plan for the program year July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020 in order to spend new allocation under the CARES Act, including Community Development Block Grant to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. Item number 10, which is a report and resolution from the Health and Human Services Committee authorizing the city of Hartford.
Majority Leader Clark, we still haven't voted on the suspension of the rules.
We did.
I thought we did.
I believe there
Mr.
was.
Clerk, for clarification purposes, did you do a roll call for the suspension of the rules?
The first roll call was the suspension of the rules. That was 21, 2, 23, 24, and 25.
Thank you for that clarification. I am getting some text messages.
I'm sorry, I think it was unclear whether the fire department contract was item 25 or not in the motion to suspend the rules.
Mhm.
So did we do a roll call for the suspension? We did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So rules were suspended.
Yes.
All right. So shall I proceed with the consent calendar?
Yes.
Okay, what number was I? Number 10, report and resolution from the Health and Human Services Committee with the company resolution authorizing the City of Hartford's Health and Human Services Department to receive annual funding from the State Department of Public Health to promote community health education, which is referred to as per capita grant funds. Item number 11, a report and resolution from the Health and Human Services Committee authorizing the city's Department of Health and Human Services to receive annual funding from the State Department of Public Health to promote safety and prevent falls by aging and elderly residents. Item number 15, with a replacement committee of the whole with accompanying resolution urging the adoption and utilization of people respect for first language with the people with criminal records in all legislation, co-sponsorship memos, reports, policies, and other documents. And item number 25, which is the local 760 for firefighter union tentative agreement.
Second the motion.
A motion has been made and properly second. Are there any questions, any discussions? Any questions, any discussion? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll? We can't hear you, Mr. Clerk.
Councilwoman Bermudez,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mistum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we receive the following items. Item number 7, Labor, Education, Workforce, and Youth Committee communication concerning a resolution that would allow the Hartford Public Schools to establish a non-lapsing fund of up to 2% of the budgeted appropriation as permitted under the Connecticut General Statutes, Section 10-248A. Item number 8, Labor, Education, Workforce, and Youth Committee communication concerning a presentation made by Kim Oliver of the Department of Families, Children, Youth, and Recreation. Item number 9, Health and Human Services Committee communication concerning a presentation COVID-19 related by Health and Human Services Director. Item number 12, which is the Planning, Economic Development, and Housing Committee communication on proposed ordinance amending Chapter 22, Article 2, Division 5, to increase commercial non-residential parking lot licensing fees and to add commercial non-residential parking garages to the licensing requirement of the Hartford Municipal Code. Item number 14, Operations Management, Budget, and Government Accountability Committee, with a accompanying resolution that would allow the Hartford Public Schools to establish a non-lapsing fund of up to 2% of their budgeted appropriation as permitted under the Connecticut General Statutes, Section 10-248A.
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any questions, any discussions? Any questions, any discussions? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we refer the following items to said committees. Item number 2 to the Operations Management, Budget, and Government Accountability Committee, which is made only with the company resolution authorizing the city to accept a second grant from the Center for Tech and Civic Life to provide support to the City of Hartford's Office of the City Clerk. Item number 3 with a replacement to the Quality Life and Public Safety Committee, which is Mayor Bronin with a company resolution authorizing the mayor to apply for and accept a grant in the amount of $299,949.81 from the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation Highway Safety Office for the enforcement of impaired driving offenses. Items number 4 and 5 to the Public Works, Parks, Recreation, and Environment Committee. Item number 4, Mayor Bronin with the company resolution authorizing the 2021 fees for the 2 city-owned golf courses in Keeney and Goodwin Parks. Item number 5, Mayor Bronin with the company resolution that will authorize the city to enter into an agreement to replace its old fleet of golf carts and service vehicles with new upgraded electric golf cars at the Keeney Park Golf Course. Item number 19 to the Planning, Economic Development, Housing Committee, which is a substitute ordinance amending Chapter 22, Article 2, Division 5 to increase commercial non-residential parking lot licensing fees and to add commercial non-residential parking garages to the licensing agreement requirement of the Hartford Municipal Code. Item number, and that concludes the referred items.
Second the motion.
You're on mute, Madam Chair.
Councilman Gale?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Respectfully, at this time, I would like to move to amend the motion that was just made to eliminate the referral of item number 19 and to allow item number 19 to therefore go up for action tonight as it is, it's teed up for action.
Second.
Okay, a motion, Councilman Gale?
I would just like to comment on the motion, if I may.
Absolutely.
Item number 19 is the amendment to the city's parking lot registration ordinance. We heard considerable comment earlier tonight from the public on this ordinance change. This ordinance change was first brought to council. Well, actually, before it was brought to council, this ordinance change went to a committee meeting before PEDH on October 7th. And this was, publicly noticed committee meeting. It then came to council on October 26th. It went to a public comment on November 16th. It had a second hearing at PEDH, Planning and Economic Development and Housing Committee, on December 2nd. It seems to me it has therefore had a considerable amount of exposure to the public up to this point in time. I'm not insensitive to the fact that there are certain members of the public who apparently were unaware that this matter was coming before us, but it does show some degree of disrespect for council that after council going through this very long process to consider a matter, that we should therefore jump when people say jump at the very last minute and take a step back. As we know, as we've all discussed in the past, this ordinance seeks to promote a number of different policy issues. It does seek to better utilize the assets of the city of Hartford, for which we as the city spend a lot of money creating infrastructure. And we know, because we've got studies on it and we've received information about it, that using city property for a parking lot is a very bad use of property in a downtown, in the downtown area. Notwithstanding what some of the comments that have been made tonight with respect to whether parking may be a desirable commodity, there are countless studies that show that parking lots in the central business district are the death of a city. And so we're seeking to remedy that. This ordinance would also seek to increase revenue for the city. Certainly a laudable goal. This ordinance would also seek to potentially cause people to change their behavior to some extent, and perhaps people would carpool a little bit more, changing some driving habits to the benefit of our environment. And it may also cause parking lot operators to consider changing the use of their parking lots and help the city to get those changes. I heard told that we may have some difficulty getting additional CRDA money from the governor. I'd like to have those parking lot operators standing side by side with us, going to the governor, asking the governor for additional CRDA money so we could help develop some of those parking lots. This particular ordinance will help us achieve that. This ordinance also is tremendously modest in scope. I didn't quite follow the economics of one of the commentators earlier. We worked out the mathematics. This works out to be 25 cents per workday, 5 days a week, per workday, per parking space. That's $1.25 per week, $62.50 for a 50-week year. This is modest by anybody's standards, and therefore I would respectfully ask that we remove it from this particular motion so that it can be up for action.
Councilman Mixtum.
Thank you, Madam President. I agree with Councilman Gale, and I just want to add something. The members of the public we heard from are the folks who make their money from parking lots. All right, so of course they're going to come forward and say, doom and gloom, this is the end of the world, this is going to ruin downtown. But not one of them said, I will go out of business. Not one of them pointed to a study that said they would actually hurt the other businesses downtown. We got a nation full of cities about the size of this city trying different things, and nobody could point to a single city in the whole nation where something like this has resulted in the terrible outcomes that they were hinting would happen. So, we sent this to our committee twice. We looked at data, we looked at studies, we have done the work. Now they come late in the game and they have not done the work. They just are hoping that because they are folks with a lot of dough and a lot of influence, they can get on the phone and make things go their way. I think that this body has shown that it knows how to make good legislation and it knows how to go through a process, and we don't need to put this thing on ice anymore.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Thank you.
Followed by Councilwoman Bernays. Yes, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair. I do understand what Councilman Gale and Councilman Mitchell mentioned, that this item went to committee and went to a public hearing. Unfortunately, one of the things I do try to do is be transparent for whatever I believe that the council is going to make decisions on. And one of the people we did not hear from, regardless of how we have put our agenda items out in the community, we did not hear from the downtown sector. So I would like the opportunity to be given to them to come back to this committee to actually give their point of view, how this ordinance will affect them. And so I'm asking, the members to actually send it back to committee so we can provide transparency for everyone. Even though we did have a public hearing, The item was on the committee agenda for 2 months. I really do believe that we need to give everyone around the table, and when we pass legislation to affect anyone in this city, we need to give everyone an opportunity to come to the table and educate us and give their opinion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Surgeon. Councilwoman Bermudez.
Thank you. I'd like to echo the sentiments of my colleagues, Councilman McDum and also Councilman Gale. We have to remember that the amount that we are describing that we've put forth is a very modest amount. It's not a big amount that we are recommending. We also have to recall that in many of our conversations, we looked at other models that have been already in place in other cities. New Haven's another example yet again. And so it's something that's doable. It's something that certainly makes a city more walkable and livable, and something that all of us, we all want a walkable, livable, friendly community. And so these are all things that we've discussed at our committee level and also during the public hearing process. And so I would urge other council members to make the decision on this vote tonight that is most beneficial to the members of our community, to our residents.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes. I do want to say that a couple things that, I believe with my council peers that, parking lots are not conducive to thriving downtowns, and for various reasons. The other thing too is that the amount that was discussed was a nominal amount, at least as I heard it. I was part of the committee meetings, although not a voting member, a part of the committee meetings, and I think the amounts were nominal. However, in hearing the public tonight, what I did hear is that there's a huge discrepancy between the nominal amount that I heard in committee and upwards of $50,000 per site in extra taxes, which is, there's a big differentiation there, which causes me to, to figure out why that is, from a nominal amount to, upwards of $30,000 to $50,000. And I agree that, the members who did come out for public comment tonight, their motivations, I think we're well aware of them being the business owners. But when we talk about community voice, whether it be from certain neighborhoods or it be from businesses or it be from downtown, we need to have everyone on the table. So what I would say is, we need to find out the mistakes as to why they were not at the table and rectify them and have a robust conversation. Similarly, when we talk about ordinances that affect disenfranchised groups. And so for those two reasons, I have a lot of questions in terms of the amount. And then if we're saying that we want Hartford voice in all matters, and at this point, this particular Hartford voice was not present, then on all other matters where we need Hartford voice, that's why I'm in favor of it going back to committee, so we can hear the community voice on this side, but also understand the huge differentiation between the nominal amount that we heard and what was proposed today or what was discussed today. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Councilman Mitchum.
Thank you. Just briefly to push back against what's been said by Councilman LeBron and Councilman Surgeon. I mean, not really push back. I agree that everyone needs a voice and we have to hear from all sides. But we have a process and we followed that process. And I recall that during public comment, there were regular citizens not connected to parking industry in any way who came and had something to say about this issue. And now we're talking about changing our rules to make more time and to slow down our process for million-dollar companies who have lawyers and lobbyists and a host of resources that many of the folks who come to our public comment don't have. So I agree we need to make space for comment, but we have made space. And it's easy to come at the last minute and throw out numbers and talk about the economic doom and gloom. But maybe the reason they didn't show up at a committee meeting or show up in public comment where they would have had time to present charts and data is because they don't have those charts and data. And now the ship has sailed. So I think we can give big corporations exactly the same process that we give regular citizens, and that the citizens were able to use apparently much more easily than these big corporations. I don't think we need to give them another bite at the apple.
Thank you, Councilman Mason. Councilman LeBron, followed by Councilwoman Surgeon. Did I see your hand, Councilwoman Surgeon?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So, Councilman Mickham, thank you for that. And I think we both agree on the basic premise of community voice. We absolutely agree on that. But I've sat here on council since January and have echoed the sentiments from your standpoint, where we feel like community voice sometimes gets isolated and drowned out or not heard. And it's happened a lot of times, and they come in last minute. I myself proposed a resolution in June where the community felt that they weren't not business oriented, but they felt that they were told things at the last minute, and I pushed for them to be heard. And a budget item was then delayed as a process. So that did happen. And so those things do happen. And this is for what we would recognize as possibly a marginalized or particularly a disenfranchised community, without belaboring what the item was. So we have curbed the process when we've heard that the community weren't aware. And what I will echo is that oftentimes, in terms of outreach, we all need to do a better job, including myself in my office, in terms of outreaching the community through different mechanisms and making sure that the voices are heard. So, that's the reason why I feel the way. But I do agree with you, Councilman Mickham, that we need to hear all voices.
Thank you, Councilman LeBron. Councilwoman Surgeon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do agree with Councilman LeBron and also Councilman Mitchum. We do have a process that we do go through: public hearings, committee meetings, and I've always been the one about process and making sure you would hold to that process. But when I have realized, or when it is brought to my attention that going through this process, there was a portion of the community that was not part of this process, I am always willing to step back, hear their opportunity, to hear what they have to say. It is important when I make decisions that I make decision and taking consideration of all the different constituents that we do have here in the city of Hartford. I commended Councilman Gale and Councilman Bermudez, because this was a item and that was brought to my attention when we first got elected in the beginning of the year regarding parking and the surface parking in the city. And I heard one side of this information and statistics that was presented to us. I am willing to listen to the other side of the coin. And so by hearing all information, it you make a better decision of how you're going to govern in the city of Hartford. So I am again asking the council members to transfer the items back to committee one more time so we can have and hear both sides of the information in this item before we make a decision and go forward.
Councilman Sanchez. Thank you, Councilwoman Surgeon. Councilman Sanchez.
Yes, thank you. And through you, Madam President. I agree with what all my colleagues are stating here, and they're all true. And I appreciate Councilman Gale's resolution on increasing a very nominal fee of 25 cents. I originally agreed with Councilman Gale. I still agree with Councilman Gale. But at this moment, I find it so surprising that the owners of these parking lots, the blacktops, only found out through the Hartford Business Journal. A company that are so large, and it makes me wonder, why don't they, knowing they have property here in Hartford, why don't they get onto the Hartford City website and look at what the agenda are in place for the Hartford City Council? So that's a responsibility that I feel they failed to follow. So, but at the same token, I do appreciate making sure that we hear all sides, all sides of the argument, especially from the owners and also from the business owners in the community, in the downtown area where these lots are located. I'm on the fence on which way I would go. Again, I still support this resolution, but I also support in hearing everybody's voice. And I'll stay right there.
Thank you, Councilman Sanchez. And I too echo what Councilman LeBron Surgeon said about sending this back to committee for further dialogue. But I also understand what Councilman Mitchell is saying. There is a process. And, when here comes the final hour, we get all these calls when there's a process in place. And I just hope that whichever way we take a vote today, it sets an example for everyone, especially the businesses, to pay attention to ordinances that council is putting forth. With that said, are there any other discussions? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll on Councilman Gale's motion.
Yes. Councilwoman Bermudez. Councilman
Yes.
Clark.
No.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
No.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
No.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
No.
Councilman Sanchez.
No.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
No.
Motion failed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And now we're back to our original motion. If you could call the roll, please. Councilman Gale?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I have one more motion to make.
Sure.
I would like to add to this, I move to add to the referrals, item number 6, which is presently shown as up for action. This is the resolution from the mayor seeking to amend a certain settlement agreement made with one of our taxpayers. And I would like to move to send that item to the Operations Management and Budget Committee and take it off of action.
Which item again was that, Councilman Gale?
This is item number 6 on our agenda, which is Mayor Bronin with accompanying resolution amending the amended settlement agreement to extend the time by which Shelbourne Properties can respond to the Historic Preservation Commission's concerns and obtain the necessary permits and approvals.
So you're making a motion to take it off the action?
Correct. To take it off action and send it to committee.
Second.
Okay, a motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Yes, Councilwoman Surgeon? You're on mute, so.
Sorry. Item number 6 is basically an extension of the organization asking the city to extend the agreement for 120 days. We've been in a pandemic since March. And, a lot of our committee meetings with the state and the city, everyone is not, unfortunately, haven't been able to meet. The Historic Preservation Commission, which this item is currently in front of, did not meet regularly due to the pandemic. And so therefore, this item, they need a little bit more time at the committee. So therefore, they're asking the city for a few more months so that they can go back to this commission and get approval. This basically is the Talcott Garage, downtown Hartford. There is a bridge that the Historical Society basically is saying that the organization needs to address. And so all this process is caught up at the Historical Preservation Commission, and they're asking the city, as I said again, for a few months so they can work with the Preservations Commission and get that through that commission, so they can be in the process of taking the garage down. So I have no problems giving the organization I believe it's 120 days. They're asking for the extension due to the fact that, again, we are going back into, this is December, this is the holidays, January is, we're going back again, into some form of restrictive, lockdown due to the pandemic. And so I'm asking my colleagues to be cognizant due to the condition of how we're living and how we're doing business. Here we are, it's been a year now since we have taken office, and I think we've gotten together a couple of times this beginning of this year. So I'm asking my colleagues to be cognizant that, and work with that organization who's trying to do the right thing in the city, and give them a little bit more time to fulfill that agreement and do what that needs to be done. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Surgeon. Councilman Mixtum.
Just a quick question for anyone, but I get the sense that Councilwoman Surgeon knows the answer, but I'll ask for you.
Sure.
What is the original deadline? Like, what's the date that they want extended? Maybe you said this.
No, I did. Through you, Madam Chair, Councilman Mitchum, the agreement was going to expire on December 31st. And so again, due to the fact that they are able to get all those information through the commission, I think everybody knows where the bridge is, by the Talcott Garage, downtown Hartford, and it's an historical bridge. They want that bridge to be saved, but the organization has to work with architects and engineers to figure out how they can save the bridge. So all that they're asking for is a little bit more time so they can meet the requirement of the Historical Preservation Commission. And then absolutely, we'll be able to take that garage down in the city. Did I answer your question, Councilman Mitchum? You're good? Okay.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Councilman Gale?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't disagree with anything that Councilwoman Surgeon has said, but I do want to make it clear. The intent of sending this to committee is not to prevent them from getting the extension. The intent in sending this to committee is so that we all can get the information that we need so that we can make a decision. It's interesting that Councilwoman Surgeon just spent a great deal of time talking about sending another matter back to committee so that she could learn the other side of it. And yet here we are looking to perhaps ask council to take action on a matter tonight that none of us know anything about. I mean, the mere fact that Councilman Mictum asked when was the original deadline. And by the way, Councilman Mictum, the original deadline on this matter was December 31st not this year, but last year. This is the fourth extension. This original deal was cut January of 2018. They were supposed to have made a decision by December of 2018 to either tear down the garage or repair it. They asked for a 6-month extension to July 1. They asked for another 6-month extension to this December. Nobody is seeking to cut them off. Councilwoman Surgeon, item number 23 on our agenda that was walked on is the exact same resolution giving a 30-day extension. And the point of giving them the 30-day extension in item number 23, which is on up for action, is that it allows council then a 30-day window to have an opportunity to hear from Shelbourne, to hear exactly why it is that they need this other extension. And I also need to point out to council members that in item number 6 is not simply a 120-day extension. It's an extension that says they have 120 days from after they get final approval through whatever committee they're going through with historic preservation. So that could be who knows what, especially in this time of COVID. But it isn't simply 120 days. It could be a year, who knows. But we should find out at a committee meeting rather than going forward and voting blind on this.
Councilwoman Sturgeon?
Through you, Madam Chair, basically, our attorney Rifkin had sent out information last Friday, I believe it was, that gives all the background information and why the urgency. And because we only have one council meeting in December. And so that information, if you need it, was to get caught up. And why not send this back to committee? Again, through Councilman Gale, basically, due to the timing that needs to be done, and because Attorney Rifkin has sent out all the pertinent information, I felt very comfortable. I felt very comfortable along with the short deadline that we have. And we only had one council meeting this month. So I feel very comfortable in recommending that we give them the 120 days. Basically, 120 days, next year, we have lots more time to actually, if they do not meet their, all their information or didn't meet all their requirements, I believe, we have a piece of, we have a building in the city that we have an organization who is, taking that garage, which is, I believe, is a dangerous to a lot of people in the city. Let's give them the opportunity to fulfill that and, and making our downtown better. I know this is a short deadline. I am one of those proponents of the council, which don't like, suspension of rules, really like to see things in committee. But I also have to be flexible when it comes to deadline and time that decisions have to be made. I do also have to be reasonable, when it affects, the organization getting something done and accomplished in the city. So again, I'm asking the members of here tonight to consider being a little bit flexible and giving this organization that 120 days that they need to get what they need to get done.
Councilman Brown, followed by Councilman Gale.
So I just want to echo the sentiments regarding the last item where Councilwoman Surgeon suggested hearing more and just, gently push back against Councilman Gale that this is exactly what Councilman Surgeon is recommending for this item. The extension allows for 120 more days. And so it's the same thing so that we could hear more. There seems to be some discrepancies around the small business historic preservation item. And so now we get the chance to, when they come back, so we can find out exactly what's going on. So that's the way that I see it. And so I just think it is parallel to what we were discussing before.
Councilman Gale?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think there's a slight misconception here. Councilman LeBron's last remark. This is this is not coming back to council. They have come in looking for an extension. Let's back up. The original proposal here, Shelbourne Property got a substantial tax break from this council.
Right.
And in return, they agreed to do certain things, some pretty dramatic things, because the tax break was millions and millions of dollars. And one of the basic promise was that as a result of getting this tax break, they were going to agree to redevelop the property across the street from them. So we're talking about the Stilts building here and the empty parking lot that's across the street and the parking garage that's behind it, the Talcott Street garage. That's what we're talking about. And that's been what they have agreed to move on. They've agreed to either renovate it or tear it down and build something else. That's what we're talking about. All I want to know is what I want this council, and to Councilman LeBron's point, if we don't send it to committee, you're never going to find out, because they're not coming back to talk to you. You are never going to find out where they are today, why it's taken 2 years to get to where we are today, what their plan is, what the holdup is. All I'm suggesting is we put the brakes on, give them a 30-day extension. I'm not looking to take away their tax break, which is what would happen, by the way. If we don't give them any extension, they would lose their tax break. I'm not suggesting that we take away their tax break. I'm just simply suggesting that we give them a 30-day extension while we hear from them to determine why we shouldn't give them a 120-day extension. I'm happy to give them the 120 days. And by the way, again, it's not 120 days from today. It's 120 days from when they get their final approvals. And I'm happy to give them that. But I do think we ought to get information, and we aren't going to get it at some other time. They're not coming back here. This is just to give them an extension, not for them to come back at some future date to ask us for something else. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Councilman Sanchez?
Yes, this is a question for Corp Counsel, Attorney Rifkin. Is there a possibility that we can amend this resolution to include to approve the 120 upon their doing a presentation to council?
Through you, Madam President. The way the agreement exists right now is they have to take the garage down by December 31st, 2020. So I would say the answer to that question, Councilman Sanchez, would be no.
Councilman Mixtum?
It seems to me that, sort of responding to Councilman Sanchez, the way to do that is item 23, which is to say, give them enough time without the risk of losing their tax break to make the presentation, right, for our council, for the committee to convene, and then assuming that they have some plan and that's satisfactory, then we grant the extension. I just want to respond. I think a couple folks said that this and the previous matter that we discussed are similar because all we're doing is creating more time, but it seems to me that they're similar because what we're asked to do is carry the water for big corporate interests. I mean, these are big companies that have a lot of resources and they don't actually need that much charity from us.
Councilman LeBron?
Yeah, I mean, so when I talked about listening, so if we look at number 6, it says, can respond to the Historic Preservation Commission's concern. So, I mean, that's what I want to know more about. I know Attorney Rifkin sent some more things, but this provides us the opportunity to listen from the Historic Preservation Commission's concerns as well. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of hearing the community.
So for clarification purposes, I just got a question Councilman Gale's resolution is to extend them for 30 days so that they're able to come in front of council and present in committee. Is that correct, Councilman Gale?
Yes, that's the net effect of if we take item 6 and send it to committee, it stays on our agenda. We can always pass it as soon as we have the information that we need. And item number 23 gets them past the December 31st deadline. And so at some point in time, we would be able to answer Councilman LeBron's concerns by hearing about the Historic Commission. If we don't do it in that fashion, we're never going to hear what the Historic Commission's concerns are.
Thank you, Councilman Gale. Councilwoman.
I'm sorry.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Through you, Madam Chair. Again, we are going into another next 2 or 3 months. I thank God that we have a vaccination, but we're going into another 2 or 3 months. We don't know how much more time or what we have a vaccination, I'm glad people are going to be able to get the vaccination, but we don't know how much more time the Preservation Commission, are they going to have a meeting next January or next February? I say give them the 120 days just to give them enough time for them to go in front of this commission and make a decision how they're going to address the bridge, the historical bridge. So giving them 120 days, is that we don't want to come back 30 days again from now. The Preservation Commission has not met. We got to give them another 30 more days again. Let's just give them 120 days. That would be sufficient time so we can get through for the next 2 or 3 months, this restrictive way we're living again, so we can make that decision 120 days from now.
Councilman Clark. Thank you, Councilwoman Surgeon. Councilman Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I've listened to a lot of my colleagues' concerns regarding this. Doing business with the city of Hartford can be very difficult. It can be really difficult navigating through various departments that businesses are required to contact, to go through in order to get something done. The processes that are set up actually really prolongs things from being completed. So when we have the entity of the Historic Preservation Commission as a means for the Shelburne Group to go before, as Councilwoman Surgeon said, that we don't know exactly when they will meet. They could not. They very well may not be able to meet due to quorum issues or because of the current pandemic that we're in, and it also too takes time to get things through the Historic Preservation Commission. And so we have to take that into consideration. There are things that can't be done within the snap of a finger. A lot of times it takes a long time for us to approve stuff because we have our own process that we have in place. And so it is the same thing with the other commissions that are in place that have safeguards for business development. So I think that in this pandemic, we have seen businesses development has slowed because of this, and we should be taking that into consideration as well. I see no reason why we cannot approve the said resolution that is before us for the 120 days, and also too, we've had committee of the wholes where we have had people come before us to provide presentations. I see nothing prohibiting us from approving this resolution, item number 6, and also too, having a committee of the whole to have the Shelburne Group come before us to give a presentation, give an update as to what has been transpiring. They have done a great job for rehabbing the Stilts building. And again, we have to keep in mind that pandemic has been an issue for many buildings, and it has actually dried up the funding streams for businesses to actually do business and also to grow their businesses too. So I would hope that my colleagues would support item number 6 as it is written for the 120 days for it to be passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other discussion? Councilman Sanchez.
Yes, I appreciate that, Majority Leader. But I must say that this pandemic only started the beginning of 2020. They had 3 years. 3 years that I'm very curious as to what's taking so long for any approval, for that matter, to get this deal done with, especially with the type of abatement we gave them. I am interested in knowing this. I do feel that if we refer it to committee, we can at any time we can kick it out of committee back to council immediately if we have to, and also we can reach out to the Historical Society to find out what their schedule are. And I'm pretty sure they have their meetings virtual as we do, so that we can have this presentation showed to us. I think it's important to know what is actually going on with this piece of property, because if it was me, I'm pretty sure we could have given it to someone else that probably would have developed it by now, or at least knocked it down and cleaned it up. I'm going along with the referral. We can give them a 30-day extension, and then the 120 right after. I don't see any harm in looking into this and vetting what is actually happening here, and as well as the so-called bridge, which is actually an antiquated skywalk. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other further discussions? We have a motion that's been made and properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, if you could call on the motion that Councilman Sanchez? I can't hear you.
Can you repeat the motion, please?
Yes, Councilman Gale, please repeat the motion.
The motion is to add, the motion is to add to Majority Leader's motion referring certain matters to certain committees. It's to add a referral of item number 6 to the Operations Management and Budget Committee. Take it off of action and to refer it to committee by adding it.
Is that what a 30-day extension for the moment?
No,
well, we haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that. You'll have to vote on that as item 23 for action.
Okay.
So a motion has been made and properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
No.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
No.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
No.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
No.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Now we're back to our original motion. Could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez. Councilwoman Bermudez. Councilman Clark.
Can we repeat the original motion for clarity, please?
That was the referred items.
So I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Clerk.
Referred items number 2, 3, 19, 4, 5, and you'll be adding number 6 to that, correct?
And for clarification, number 6, which is the Shelbourne resolution, is now going to committee.
Yes.
Number 21 to committee.
Operations Management and Budget Committee. 21?
21, do we have,
Yeah. I have a question.
I didn't call 21.
I'm
No.
sorry, no, you didn't call 21, I apologize.
So, all right, so, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Madam President.
Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez.
You're on mute, Councilwoman Bermudez.
Can't hear you.
Mute.
She's
Sorry.
yes, but we can't hear her.
But point of order, Madam President, I saw Councilman LeBron. I think you had a discussion question.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I apologize. Yes, Councilman LeBron.
No problem, Council President. Thank you. Through you. So this is the referred item without number 6, correct?
No, with number 6.
No, with
Number 6.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Okay. Councilwoman Bermudez, still on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, now, thank you. Councilman Clark.
yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we place the following items for postponement. Item number 17, which is ordinance amending Chapter 2, appointments of department heads requirements, Section 850, residency requirements of the municipal code. Item number 18, substitute ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 18, Section 2-862, motor vehicle policy of the Hartford Municipal Code, which will be postponed to our next meeting, which is January 14th, 2021.
I second the motion.
Did I hear a second? to that?
Second,
Yeah, I seconded. I don't know what happened.
The motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Any discussion? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez. I'm not hearing her. Councilwoman Bermudez.
Now, thanks.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilman Surgeon.
yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. To you, I would like to make the motion to withdraw item 20. I am one of the makers of the resolution.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Any discussions? Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez. I'm not hearing her.
Can't hear.
Hear you.
Do we need a vote if the maker withdraws it?
Not necessarily.
But we have made it a rule that on any motions for clarification purposes, because it does confuse sometimes the public that make a motion and don't do a roll call, we have decided to always do a roll call.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, you may continue with the roll call.
Okay. Councilwoman Bermudez. Not hearing. Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we place action item 13, which is a Planning, Economic Development Housing Committee with a company resolution concerning a proposed cooperation agreement with the Hartford Housing Authority with a voluntary pilot program.
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Are there any discussions? Any discussions? Mr. Clerk, yes, Councilman.
I just wonder if one of the makers could give us a very brief summary for everyone so we know what it is.
This was from the administration. Howard, could you give a brief statement on this resolution?
Madam President, very briefly, as this was before committee and had considerable discussion, the Hartford Housing Authority is moving to a different model of financing their various projects. Sorry, I'm hearing banging in the background. And I don't think it's me. So they're moving to a different model of financing projects on a going forward basis, and they're going to be creating subsidiaries to do that. This fact will allow them to borrow money in order to raise capital to make necessary capital improvements to the various projects. There is a state statute that allows for municipalities and housing authorities to negotiate pilot payment projects or pilot payments on various housing authority projects on a going forward basis. And the administration and the housing authority have gotten together as they move towards this new financing mechanism to create an opportunity for the city to participate and receive a pilot payment without jeopardizing the ability of the housing authority to maintain the facilities, nor creating the situation where households living in housing authority residents would see their taxes or their monthly payment increase.
Thank you, Howard. For the record, I am recusing myself from this resolution as I do work for the Hartford Housing Authority, for the record.
Through the president, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll since the council president has recused herself?
Thank you, Majority Leader.
Councilwoman Bermudez. Councilwoman Bermudez.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now I can.
Okay.
Your
I didn't
answer.
hear your vote. I didn't hear your vote.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we take action on item number 16, which is a resolution with a company report from the Operations Management, Budget, and Government Accountability Committee that would allow the Hartford Public Schools to establish a non-lapsing fund for up to 2% of the budget appropriation as permitted under the Connecticut General Statute, Section 10-248A.
Councilman LeBron?
Council President, I have a question for Corporation Counsel. Mr. Rifkin, we heard this on a couple occasions regarding reporting back to council. And in one committee meeting, it was stated that if we did earmark this for the Board of Education, that they did have to come back to council. And then there was another meeting where they weren't too sure. Can you clarify if this has to come back to council, if even though it's earmarked for Board of Ed, if funds have to be withdrawn?
Through you, Madam President, I believe Councilman LeBron, under state statute, if this reserve is set aside through this resolution, the 2%, up to 2% of the budget, then there would be a committed fund balance for $5.6 million. State statute, the Board of Education could draw down upon that without having to first get City Council approval.
Councilman LeBron?
You, Council President, I'd like to make an amendment to this resolution, if I can, and Attorney Rifkin, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it possible to add an amendment that if they choose to draw down on this 5.6 million, that we require that they come back to a council to either report or get our approval?
Through you, Council President, I believe that the state statute under which this proposed resolution would be approved not allow that.
So,
Go ahead, Councilman LeBron.
So through you, Attorney Rifkin, there is no way that we can request the Board of Ed to come back and report on this item either?
Through you, Council President, I believe that that were the resolution before you not be approved, that it would be that the mayor's intention would be to commit $5.6 million to a committed fund balance reserve under his authority, and that subsequently any request to draw down upon that committed fund balance would in fact require council approval.
Thank you.
So do I have a second to this motion for the record?
I'm sorry, what was the motion? I apologize. Was there a motion?
Through you, Madam President. Yes, the motion was to take action on item 16, which is the resolution with the accompanying report from the OMBGA committee that would allow Hartford Public Schools to establish a non-lapsing fund of up to 2% of their budgeted appropriation as permitted under the Connecticut statutes.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any other discussions? Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mishlam,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we take up for action item number 21, now of the supplemental agenda, which is to appoint Leticia Marulanda to the Internal Audit Commission as council's designated appointee.
I'll second it.
A motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Gale.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make an amendment to send this resolution to committee. I think the appropriate committee would be the Operations Management and Budget Committee. This is the first time that this matter has appeared on our agenda. In fact, it was walked on tonight, so the public didn't even know it was coming until minutes ago. And while many members of council may know the designee, I personally do not know the designee. I do think that it would be appropriate for the proposed appointee to at least appear before some council committee so that council members might have an opportunity to ask questions to determine whether she is in fact an appropriate choice for the Internal Audit Committee. All of our commissions are important commissions, and these are always important appointments, and I don't think we should take them lightly. So respectfully, I move that we send this to committee.
I second the motion.
A motion has been made and properly second. Councilman Mixtum.
Yeah, I want to echo what Councilman Gale said and make clear, like, I don't know Ms. Marulanda personally, but I've heard many good things about her. My inclination would be to vote her into this position, but I think we owe the people of the city regularity and transparency, and that's what we have the committees for.
Are there any other discussions? There being none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mishlam,
Yes.
Councilman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Councilman Clark, Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We're almost done. We had two more items after this one to go. Thank you,
One for the books.
Yes, it is. This is longer than the budget meeting. I'm sorry. To you, Madam President, I would like to make a motion that we take up for action item number 22, which is a resolution requesting that the Chief of Police report on the status of implementation of the performance appraisals, community sensitivity training, Court of Justice, and an update on Deadpool disciplinary actions.
Second.
motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Gale, followed by Councilman.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I want to express that I'm tremendously supportive of all of the sentiments that are set forth in this resolution. In particular, the call for the chief of police to appear at a council of the whole meeting to report on the status of implementation of the performance appraisals, and the request that the chief report on how the department is expending additional money that this council allocated for community sensitivity training, restorative justice. I would like to, I share my colleague's view that, want to hear from the chief as to the culture in the department and what progress is being made. However, there's one part of this that I can't support, which is why I would prefer to support Councilman Sanchez's, which is item 24. His resolution picks up all the intents that are here without taking the final step of calling for termination of particular detective who's already been disciplined quite extensively by the chief. And my only point in doing so is that I think that it shows a lack of support in our administration if we are seeking to second guess the administrative discipline that's already been imposed by the chief, and it seems to me it's pretty severe discipline. So with that said, I appreciate the motion, but I won't support it. I'll support item 24.
Councilman Clark.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll make my comments brief, given the hour. I think the Hartford Current's article that I was quoted in speaks. I was just simply appalled, and as a black man, to see that the majority of the residents who are Black and brown are still viewed as money symbols, and so it's appalling, especially when as public officials are sworn to protect and to serve members of the city of Hartford, regardless of your race, color, or creed, and so yes, disciplinary actions for the detective is severe. It was shocking to me that he went to that extent. However, I don't believe that the now officer did not accept the discipline, and they still have to go through a process. But I think that this resolution here sends a clear signal that we're no longer going to roll over. We're no longer going to continue to be subject to this type of distastefulness that we continue to receive. And, enough is enough. And, if he's not disciplined, then, we have done our job to call for it. And I think that this resolution, again, sends a clear signal. How would you feel if your life, your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew's lives were continued to be betted on? I heard a social worker say that, if this were to happen in the social work field and they were captured saying it, they would be fired immediately. And so I think that in the wake of Black Lives Matter, in the wake of we continue to see injustice happen in our city and around our nation, this is a clear sign that we must take a stance. And we have to live with it. We have been elected to make hard decisions. And this, for me personally, is a hard decision for me to make. But I will sleep better at night, knowing that I have done right by my community and making this stance. Thank you.
Councilwoman Zadi.
Thank you, Council President. I just, again, late and everyone's saying, similar sentiments, but from the moment I read the incident, my immediate thoughts were what this resolution says and for termination. And that's not questioning other leadership ability. That's questioning or stating what I know to be true to my gut, what I need to do. And days later, after still talking to friends, family, neighbors, residents, a police officer, and there are good police officers, I still am so confident in that is the right thing to do. As my colleague said, I'm going to sleep better. I know this is the right thing. I know this is the right thing. And that as a, elected official, but also a taxpayer myself, that this is what happens for somebody who's not a new police officer. I feel confident, and I probably haven't felt as confident about anything in some of my votes since I've been on council. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rossetti. Councilman Sanchez, followed by Councilman LeBron.
Yes, I'd like to echo the same sentiment as Councilman Gale. Especially what Majority Leader Clark has mentioned, I wholeheartly agree. But, I will not be supporting the resolution only because of the last resolve, and I'll say why. Because we have an officer here, and to your point, Councilwoman Rossetti, yes, he's not someone new. He's been here in the force for 16 years. And what surprises me is that for 16 years, the only mark he has is breaking a button on an elevator. Now, I'm sure we have a lot of other officers who has a different type of record than this individual. Yes, what he texted was unorthodox. It was egregious. It's disrespectful. It was ignorant. It's extremely ignorant and very unprofessional. He received, 120-day suspension, a demotion, but yet at the same time, the reality is he did not commit a crime. That's just the reality. He did not commit a crime. Now, we don't have the privy of terminating this officer, and I'm pretty sure that the chief doesn't either, because there are certain protocols that you follow depending on the level of harm that an officer has done, or disrespect or breaking the law, what have you. Now, I agree with the rest of the resolution, but being that this officer has a 16-year career, has no blemish on his file, and has done a great job, and he did something that's so ignorant and unacceptable, he has received a very severe punishment. But I don't believe it should get to the extent that he should be terminated. We're all highly upset, and sometimes when we're upset, or majority of the time when we're upset, that's the time when we shouldn't make a decision. We need to calm down. And I had a conversation with Councilman Surgeon, and we both really acknowledge each other, and I really appreciate the conversation we had. And I know we both respect each other. So, I'm not sure if it was proper for me to second this motion, being that I will not be putting my name on it only because of the last resolve on the termination. Everything else I do accept and I do agree with. Now, I did create another resolution where majority of the top portion is of Councilwoman Surgeon resolution. But I believe that my resolution also goes further than just terminating this officer. In this resolution, we're looking to terminate. So what's the next step? What's the next step after we terminate an officer? How do we hold the rest of the officers who aren't doing their job right, who hides behind the badge? What are our next steps? There's nothing following after this termination on this resolution. But if you read my resolution, it gives the tools to the command leadership, which are the ones that we need to back up and respect and help them hold these officers accountable. We can change that culture, but we need to support the command leadership. And that is extremely important from this council to support the command leadership. And I understand that some of my colleagues don't have the full trust of Chief Doty because of, what you may have heard of the past or what just, apparently happened this past summer. But the fact is, we still need to support him to do his job if he is going to do that job correctly. We need to support the command leadership, and if we don't support that command leadership, this will not change. So I highly respect your resolution, Councilman Surgeon, and thank you for it. And I hope that everyone can, support my resolution as well, because the last three resolve, there's that much more authority to the command leadership to do their job and to hold these officers who are hiding behind the badge, hold them accountable as much as possible. Thank you.
Councilman Mixtum?
Thank you, Madam President. I heard both Councilman Sanchez and Councilman Gale say, we wouldn't want to not show support for the chief and for police leadership. I think we do want to not show support for them. And I think there's a reason why. I think whether or not the chief can ultimately carry out a termination of this officer, and maybe he can't because there's a whole process. The disciplines he chooses and the stance he takes publicly and the stance we take publicly send a message, and that stance is what builds the culture. And that is what we have not seen from this chief. And I don't want to go on and on, but you go back to when he had to discipline the detectives who went to West Hartford to harass the Black teenagers. When he disciplined them, at the same time, if you look up the news story, he makes an excuse for the guy about, he had someone knock on his door that frightened him months earlier. And then in May, when he had an officer who actually did commit a crime against a civilian by shoving him, and the investigation showed that it wasn't warranted, not only did that officer get no discipline to speak of, he didn't lose any pay. On top of that, the chief, again, made excuses for him. He said it wasn't clear that Officer Herman knew he had to report that he shoved someone. Okay, so what we get from the leadership again and again is excuses, foot dragging, and that is what creates a culture. That is what tells these officers, you don't need to respect the residents. You need to do what you need to do, and leadership will back you up. And so I don't trust the leadership, and I think we need to tell the leadership to step it up and start sending a different message and create a different culture, because otherwise it's never going to happen. And it may just be that this leadership isn't the leadership to do it.
Councilwoman Surgeon, followed by Councilman LeBron. You're on mute, Councilwoman Surgeon.
Thank you. I echo lots of the sentiments that I've heard regarding this resolution, that I'm only one of the co-sponsors. Councilman Sanchez and I had a great conversation this morning. I thank him for listening to my point of view and how I was feeling. One of the things, when he said, "What is next?" I said to myself, and I didn't say it to him because I totally forgot, what's next is 50 years later of Citron versus Vaughn. That's what's next in this city. 50 years later, the command staff, the police department, nothing has changed. Okay? That's what's next for me. And this is emotion for me. And I wrote this great speech, but I am so emotional that, I don't get very emotional, but I had to go back and I read the mission statement in the budget book for the City of Hartford Police Department. And it reads as follows. The Hartford Police Department works to keep Hartford residents safe by responding to the investigating of crimes, reducing crime, and forging strong relationships between every police officers at all ranks with the community, everyone. That's what their mission statement says year after year after year when we fund the budget. When you become a police officer and you take an oath of office, you've taken an oath to protect and serve in the city of Hartford. Protect and serve the residents. And I believe this detective dishonor that hope that he took to protect and serve the residents in Hartford. So I know we may not have all the capacity to find or call, the chief of police is the ones who actually discipline. But at some point, myself as a council person, myself as a resident in the city of Hartford, have no choice. I have to say enough is enough in the city. If you are going to disrespect me in this city, okay, you don't need to work for me. And that's how I feel. Okay, I have a 20-year-old deaf young man in this city that lives here. When his cochlear implant goes down and he can't find anybody to go to, and I say to him, go to a fire department, go to a police officer. Who does he trust now to go to when he's deaf and he can't hear, walking in the city? So it's emotional for me that you disrespect me, you disrespect my child, you disrespect my people in the city, and then you want to work for me? I apologize if I am a little bit emotional. I apologize to the residents who are listening to this, but you cannot disrespect the people you work for and want to serve them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Surgeon. Councilman LeBron, followed by Councilman Bermudez.
So I want to say that on this council, what I would hear from everyone here, or what I've heard from everyone here, and what I've heard from everybody in the community is that there is agreement in that the act is disgusting, the depravity it shows, the lack of understanding of community, the ultimate disrespect, as Councilman Surgeon says. And Councilwoman Surgeon, I just want to piggyback off of you. This is emotional. When we talk about the reason why we were elected to this position is because our emotions drove us to this place. What I will say is that what we cannot excuse anymore is industries and industry culture, and that the excuse among culture of an industry allows folks to behave in a certain way. Rather it be the ambulance or emergency response, the firefighters, or as Councilman Majority Leader Clark said, the human service industry. I am a social worker myself. In all of those industries, you are faced with travesties, and how you cope with them is how you respond to the work that you do. And if you continue to project a lack of respect for the people that you're serving by even having the audacity of betting on life, on human life, is absolutely, it's nonsensical. So we cannot allow culture to dictate what's right or wrong. This officer clearly went over the line. The other thing I want to say is that, yes, this officer was unblemished accordingly, and I trust that that is the fact. But the level of lacklusterness to be able to text so many folks shows a level of confianza, as they say in Spanish, that says maybe he just hadn't been caught. That maybe that this was a culture that went unchecked, or his behavior went unchecked. Let me just say this, as a program administrator in the nonprofit field, in the human service field, if anyone was to ever bet on something against our clients or like some kind of abuse or something, they would be immediately fired. And let me also bring into play my emotions. When I was an 8-year-old, my grandfather was murdered on Main Street in front of Pocito Dulce in broad daylight. And as an 8-year-old, I still carry those scars, because when you're 8 years old and your grandfather, who was your hero, 6'2", beast of a man who protected me, the level of security in this city was, the rug of security, if you will, was swept right underneath my feet the moment that he died. And if you fast forward the murders are still happening in our community. As everyone knows, my cousin was murdered on February 15th of this year. And when this came out, I wondered if this year, if any police officer benefited or won money off of that. Did they win money off of Marquise Treadwell's death? Because this just came out now. So yes, it is not fair, and we have to do right by our community. And it starts with this right now. Thank you.
Councilwoman Bermudez, thank you, Councilman LeBron, for sharing that with us. Councilwoman Bermudez.
Thank you, Councilman LeBron, for sharing that as well. Please add our names, myself and Councilman Micdom's names to this resolution. Thank you.
Did I miss anyone? I believe not. So what I'm going to say is that when I first read this resolution, I am in total support of everything on this resolution, except I was not in favor of one of the end results, which called for firing this police officer. I believe and I'm passionate about giving second chances and really looking at the root of the problem in our culture in our HPD department. I also question myself in the leadership HPD has in the mayor that I support on a daily basis and his choosing of the police chief. And I want to say publicly that I support Chief Medina, AC Medina, and I support Chief Cody. Their jobs are not easy every day coming into a department and dealing with so many issues that we're all aware of. And I say to myself, when do we start working together and not dividing this community, this police department, and this administration? When do we start? And I'm pretty sure that everyone that is listening to us, that's on this panel, has had some sort, whether it's been us, our family member, someone that we know, not a good interaction with the Hartford Police Department. But we have to become better. We have to work on finding solutions, on providing our police officers with better training, cultural training. And so when do we start as a council body to work with the administration and get there and support our chief and our assistant chief and the command staff? We cannot continue to lead like this. We're not going to go anywhere. And yes, Councilwoman Surgeon, Centron versus Bong has been there forever. And so I ask this council body, when are we going to start working together and bringing in our police chief and saying, how can we get there? Instead of picking at each other. And this doesn't go for this resolution. This goes for anything that we need to be better as human beings for the city of Hartford. Our police chief handed down a decision, and it was a very strong one. It was the 120-day suspension. It also stated that he had to do cultural sensitivity, that he had to pass a test, that he had to sit down with the community. And if he, at the end, complied with all that, then we would make a decision as council. We give everybody a due process on everything that I think that we've been on council. And yes, what he did was horrific. It was disgusting. It's probably been there going back 20 years. But is that the stand that we want to take as a council body? Today, I received many calls from the public. A lot of them asked me, people that I haven't spoken to in 10 years that didn't vote for me, called me and asked me for the termination of this officer. I had people from NRZs and people, my neighbors, knocking on my door asking me to give this officer a chance because we can't continue to fail our officers. There's a bigger issue here as to what is the problem, what drove him to that. So with that said, and taking everything in consideration and going to sleep at night with myself, I am not one that I'm ever going to fail another human being. I will try and I will give people 2 chances, 3 chances, 4, 5, whatever it takes. But I'm asking before I finish to please support decisions our mayor makes, which is who we voted into office, and our police chief and our assistant chief. I will not be supporting this resolution, and I will be supporting Councilman Sanchez because I cannot support the firing of an officer. It makes me feel like I failed him. Even though he has failed right now the city of Hartford, I have hope that after he goes through this decision, that he can become a better officer and it can be a lesson to all other officers and build a trust with our community. Thank you. With that said, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
No.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
No.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
No.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we take up for action item number 23, which is a resolution requesting that the Court of Common Council approves further amending the amended settlement agreement to extend the time by which Shelbourne Properties can respond to the Historic Preservation Commission's concerns and obtain the necessary permits and approvals for a period of 30 days.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman LeBron. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's, you know, we're doing the work of the people through you, Council President.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I'm confused. And so I think it's okay to say that. It's okay to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
And say that I am confused. Like, I don't feel shame of that. So, like, and maybe because it's the time of day. So,
Time of day.
That too.
yes.
Mhm.
And I haven't ate dinner yet. So we voted on 6, Council President, to go to committee, right? So that, what's the difference between this and this one now? Can somebody clarify that for me? I'm sorry, just humbly asking.
So, Howard, correct me if I'm wrong. So by sending number 6 to committee, we are not authorizing the extension of 120 days, right? So that would mean that if we don't pass this resolution that Councilman Gale has, which is giving them an extension of 30 days, they would be in default come December 31st, 2020.
Yep.
Through you, Madam President, that's correct.
Thank you, Howard. So what we're voting on now is to actually approve the 30 days, giving them the extension so they don't default, so that we can allow for the resolution. So resolution number 6 go to committee so that they can come in front of us. Councilman Clark.
Thank you, Madam President. Given the fact that the hour is late, I'll make my comments brief. I still believe wholeheartedly that we should have approved item number 6 and not send it to committee. So I would like to make a motion that we amend this resolution to strike out the term of 30 days and to, in place of 30 days, put 120 days, which would basically mirror the original resolution, which item number 6 is.
Second.
I second the motion.
Councilman Mitchum.
Wait, now I'm confused because if we didn't grant the 120-day extension,
No.
and we voted on that,
Mm-hmm.
we were all here for that.
Correct.
Are we why are we going to turn around and essentially grant the 120-day extension later in the evening?
Correct.
Through you, Madam President.
Correct. That's the motion that Councilman Clark has made.
And I'm saying why.
Yeah. So originally, a couple of hours ago, we sent item number 6, which was requesting a 120-day extension to committee so that we would be able to have Shelburne come and explain the process, why it's taking so long, so forth. By sending the 120 days to committee, we are still, they're still not in compliance. So by Councilman Gale submitting this resolution, that we give them until the 30th, that they become compliant.
Stay compliant.
Councilman Gale, could you please elaborate? For clarification purposes.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think you've stated it very succinctly. And I kind of agree with Councilman Victim that to vote on the amendment that was just proposed almost undoes what we did several hours ago. And maybe that's the intention, I don't know, but I see Councilman Clark has his hand up, so maybe he can explain a little further.
So am I correct in saying that if we take on what Councilman Clark just said, Shelburne would not come in front of us?
No, I don't believe that's true, because we did refer a matter before this body to committee.
Okay.
It would still have to come before us on that matter. And there is a slight difference between these two motions. Quite frankly, there is a difference.
Okay, so now Councilman Clark is stating that instead of the 30 days, he wants to give them 120 days.
That's the original ask through you.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not.
It's not, because it's still going to committee. Councilman Clark?
But this resolution, which kind of is the amendment to number 6, would actually provide them with the 120 days that the original was asking for. And they're still going to come before the committee for item number 6. But this just actually gives them back the time that they had originally requested. And by all means, I did not vote in favor for them to go to committee to begin with. That's why I'm offering up this amendment to Councilman Gill's original resolution.
Councilman Mitchum?
I understand the intent is to do now what we didn't do then. I guess what I'm saying is, why do we need to give why, if we sent it to committee and we didn't just grant the extension, what we're saying is, we want to hold your feet to the fire, Shelburne. We want you to come before us in short order and tell us what it is you're doing to get in compliance, and quickly. We don't want to accommodate you because you've dragged your feet. And so now you have to step it up, and you have just a little bit of time to get in front of the committee and convince the city to keep you on the hook for your tax benefits. I mean, that's the whole idea here, is that this is a big company that is taking its time with an obligation that it has to the city, and so we want to put pressure on it. And I think if we do exactly what we didn't do before, which is give them lots of time, then we're giving them no pressure. We're just carrying their water, and I don't think we should do that.
Councilman LeBron?
So I think we have the potential through you, Council President. I think we have the potential to create a happy medium here. And that one thing was, the biggest thing in urging was Councilman Gale wanted and Councilman Milton wanted, and I think everyone wanted to hear like what's going on, right? And so we did that with 6. Now going back, now we can also do that, but we can send 6 so that way we can have that discussion and have the questions from the historic preservation and those type of things. Now with this one, we can make sure that a property owner or development project still has the extension that was requested. So for me, the way I understand it, and I'm the one that started it off by saying I was confused, by the way, but so that's just throwing that out there. But the way that I understand it is that now we can have the best of both worlds if number 6 was referred to committee and now number 23 can get voted on with the amendment of 120 days. So we have both requests being adhered to. My humble opinion, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman LeBron, with your humble opinion. Councilman Sanchez.
Yeah, I just don't see I don't see why give them the 120 days when we're already offering 30 days to keep them in compliance. Once they give us a presentation, then we'll approve the 120 and it's a done deal. As simple as that. So that's where I'd like to continue.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
I think I kind of understand what you're saying, Councilman LeBron. Kind of makes sense where, okay, so you have a committee meeting sometime this month, but we have no council meeting. So our next council meeting is not until January. So you give them a 30-day extension until January 30. We're still in a pandemic. The Preservation Commission doesn't meet. So we're going to give them keep extending every couple of months until you can get in front of the historic, Preservation Commission. That's basically what I'm hearing. I think since you will have already sent number 6, the item, and you can have a presentation from the corporation, why not give them the 120 days? Because you are going to get your presentation. There is going to be a presentation next month. And at that time, you can make some decisions, when the 120 days is up. So I think we can have both worlds and not being able to every couple of months having an extension on our agenda. So I would love to see the 120 days and, so we can have the presentation, give them 120 days, give them that little time windfall to make some decisions of what they're doing with the bridge or walkway, So I would like to see that happen. I'm tired too. So thank you, Councilman Sanchez. Makes sense to me.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman Surgeon.
Keep through you, Madam President. Keep in mind that Councilman Gale has already mentioned they've already received, I think, up to 4 extensions. So let's say we keep this 30. They come and do the presentation. We approve. We're obviously going to approve the 120. That's what I'm saying. So my question is, when what happens if they come back again for another extension? There's an issue. So I think this presentation is important so that we know where we stand, and so that they share with us what are the reasons why it's been delayed so long. So at that point, we can at least calculate if 120 days is sufficient, or do they need more, rather than come back after the 120 as well. Thank you.
Councilman Sanchez. Councilman Clark. I apologize.
I don't know if people really understand how difficult it can be to do business in the city of Hartford. We have a whole lot of, Councilman LeBron likes to use this word, systems. We have a lot of systems that are in place within the internal structure of our departments, and it can be really prohibitive and counterproductive for businesses to do business. There is no guarantee that the Historic Preservation Committee will meet next month. if they don't meet next month due to whatever, could be the pandemic, could be not be able to have a quorum, this organization is going to have to come before us again to be granted another extension. Why do we want to do that? Why not just give them 120 days? Item number 6 has the has the organization coming before the OMBGA committee to give a presentation anyway. I mean, it just simply grant them the 120 days. Now, for whatever reason that they cannot be in compliance with doing what they need to do with the 120-day extension, then yes, by all means, let's have a meeting, but not just with them, with the other city departments to find out exactly what's the problem. Is it from an outside perspective with this organization, or is it something internally that the workers within the city departments are not just meeting the mark? So all I'll just say is this: just give them 120 days. As Councilman LeBron has stated, I think this is a happy medium. We're getting the best of both.
Councilman Sanchez?
Yeah, I agree with you, Majority Leader, that, you know, it's not easy to do business in the city of Hartford, specifically and especially small businesses. And this entity is nothing small. This is a very large organization that has all the attorneys that they need to make sure that they can streamline their efforts through the city system. And I'm pretty sure they've done it, and they've done it well. They have a good relationship with L&I, planning and zoning. So I don't see that being a difficulty for them. But possibly what I suggest is that, again, we reach out to the Historical Society and find out when their meeting occurs. And as long as it's within the 30 days, then I think we can accomplish the goals of the presentation and the 30-day extension, so that we can give them the 120. If it's out of the 30 days extension, then we can just kick it out of committee and send it back to council for the December meeting.
Councilman LeBron?
We don't have another December meeting. This is our last
Yeah.
meeting.
That's it.
Right. So I just wanted to say, I'm going to share with everyone the link for the Hartford Preservation Committee meeting. The next meeting is on the 16th. But with that being said, we wouldn't have another meeting as stated until they met on they are going to meet on January 20th. So my estimation is that they wouldn't have time to put this on their agenda. They wouldn't meet until January 20th, which then we would meet after that on January 25th, which will be put in a really tight timeline on the 30 days. As a matter of fact, extremely close timeline on the 30 days. I'm going to send everybody the link now.
Thank you for sharing that. Councilman Gale?
With all due respect, Madam President, when the Historic Commission meets is totally irrelevant to the motion, to the resolution in front of you. We as a council body, I mean, I'm not proposing that we need to know what the Historic Commission is doing. We just need to hear from Shelbourne as to what action they've been taking. Let them tell us what they've been doing. And that's all we need to hear about within 30 days. We set a committee meeting, we hear from them, assuming everything they say makes sense. We pass in our first meeting in January, we pass item number 6. And they've gotten exactly what they came before us to ask for. So I don't want council members, I think you're getting yourself confused when you think that somehow we need to hear from the Historic Commission. We need to hear from Shelbourne. That's all we need to hear from, just to convince ourselves that Shelbourne is moving this thing appropriately forward and keeping their feet to the fire. And having heard from Shelbourne, we're then in a position to say, fine, here's your 120-day extension, and et cetera. I think it's just a question of building in a little bit of accountability. I don't think we're really trying to put a roadblock here, stop this project. I doubt, I'm not suggesting that I'm going to advocate to the rest of you, to the rest of my colleagues here, that we somehow take away their tax break. But I do think we ought to have some degree of accountability and hear from them and make sure they know that we are paying attention. And, we want to see them moving this thing appropriately forward. Thank you.
Councilman Mixum?
Thank you, Madam President. I wonder if I could ask through you to Councilman Clark, who had proposed the amendment. And I ask everyone in some sense, I wonder if the issue is the timeline, and the timeline feels tight, as Councilman LeBron has said. And on the one hand, some folks are just saying, give them all the time. And on other folks, myself, Councilman Gallo, are saying, let's have more accountability. What if we just made it 45 days, right? Then we got a little time, the historic commission meets, still it's a little more accountability than 120 days. And we get there, you know what I'm saying? So I would ask the maker of the amendment.
Councilman Mixum.
I'm sorry?
My counter was 60 days, Councilman.
Fine, but I'm saying, what if 45, 60? I'm reaching out to Councilman Clark to say, what if you withdrew that amendment and made a different one, and I would second it, and we could get this damn thing done.
Just somewhere in the middle between 30 and 120, maybe.
I'm saying 45. Let's keep it tight.
Through you, Madam President, Councilman Mishlam, I like your negotiation. If you would be willing to agree to 60 days, as Councilwoman Rossetti had mentioned, I'm willing to withdraw my amendment and offer up a new one, which is 60 days.
Second.
Whoa. Good negotiation.
Are there any other discussions before I have our town clerk call the roll? Okay.
So, what are we going on 60 days, right? Okay.
Ready for the roll?
Motion has been made and properly second. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll call on majority leader's motion?
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Madam President, I believe that we have to now, the amendment was passed, now we have to pass the resolution as amended.
I apologize. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. The roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
As amended, yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make the motion of to place up for action item 24, which is our last action item of 2020. Resolution concerning the results of the investigation of Deadpool. If text is deemed termination of employment is warranted, the termination is applied immediately, and that investigation will be extended to include officers who deliberately to undermine and make false claims, which is the substitute replacement of the resolution from item number 24 by Councilman Sanchez.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly seconded. Councilman Sanchez.
Okay, so this resolution, as was mentioned a few minutes ago, it also calls for the termination of the officer if it is warranted after an investigation. So it doesn't actually take away anything from Councilwoman Surgeon's resolution at all. This one is just that, you know, I'm waiting for the due process. I'm waiting for the investigation. And then if it warrants the termination, that it be applied immediately. But not only that, it has three resolves where, if I may, I'm going to look it up and I will read it so that our audience who may not have seen it or read it will hear it now. So I'll start from the third to the last resolve, which is the difference. Resolve that the council recognizes that severe disciplinary action have been applied to the detective of the Deadpool text. And if the results of the investigation deem the termination of employment is warranted, that termination is applied immediately. And be it further resolved that this investigation be extended to include officers who are found to deliberately undermine and make false claims to and about the command leadership of HPD, thus hindering their ability to perform their duties and hold employees of the HPD accountable, including administering discipline to officers as prescribed in the Code of Conduct and City Charter, and be it further resolved that these officers and others that are found to act in this manner, which deteriorates the delicate fabric of trust between the Hartford Police Department and the community it serves, be severely disciplined to the extent legally sustainable up to and including termination. I feel that these last three resolve help support, and to Council President's comments earlier as well. This is, you know, again, we need to unite and to start working together so that we can change this culture. It is important, and I understand what Councilman Mictum had mentioned, you know, of the other incidents that nothing was done, but this is the turning point, I believe. This is the actual turning point here now where we can make and continue from this point on to hold these officers who breaks the law, who disrespects our community and hides behind the badge, to hold them accountable and move on forward so that we can get rid of this culture that we don't need. And I will leave it at that. Thank you. I hope I have your support.
Councilman Clark, followed by Councilman Mixtum.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, Councilman, I do respect your opinion and your thoughts on this. I just want to go back to what was said earlier. There needs to be a heavy lifting in changing culture in this police department. Period. Point blank. It is a deep entrenched system that minorities are really set up to fail. The command staff needs to be diversified. There needs to be more people of color in leadership positions and supervisory positions. That is something that I have been advocating for since my time on council, and we have not seen it. And the command staff needs to be reflective of the fabric and fiber of the city, which are majority folks in the city of Black and Brown, period. And that's the only way I think that the community relations will be able to be changed, is if we actually start to heavily recruit for people of color to get from into the academy class and graduate. And there are systems that have been in place that really prohibit, and we all know this, many people of color from actually graduating out of the academy, or if they actually make it out of the academy, they can't make it past their field training time because of the systems that are put in place to actually disqualify them for actually passing the probationary process. That's a fact. And so we need to go back. We as a council president have mentioned the fact about us working together. I totally agree with that. And what we need to do, we need to make sure, whether it's through Civilian Police Review Board or the Police Accountability Review Board, which we, by the way, still need to fill some vacancies on. We need to make sure that Centron V. Vaughn is the center focus of our policy as a council body for the city. Point blank. That's the only way that the heavy lifting can be done. And, it's going to take Chief Thody, Chief Medina, whoever will be the other assistant chief and everyone else in a command staff position to do the heavy lifting. But they have to want it because they are the ones that are working on the inside. And no matter what we say or do, we can only do but so much as elected officials of the city of Hartford serving the people. We need to rely on the command staff inside of our city's police department to do the heavy lifting. Thank you.
Councilman Sanchez?
And you're completely right, Majority Leader. But, as much as we need them to do the heavy lifting, they need us to back them up and support them to do that heavy lifting. It works both ways. It's the same as the community depending on the council to do the right thing. We depend on the community to help us understand what's going on because we're only limited to what we know and what's brought to our attention. So it works both ways. We all have to work together to make this happen. But thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Mixtum?
I heard Councilman Sanchez say that this is the turning point, and I hope it is the turning point, but every incident is the turning point until we let it go, until we don't do the right thing, until we don't make a strong enough stand. And as Councilwoman Surgeons has said, we've been in this for like 50 years, and turning points keep passing us by. And if we say, well, they should get as much discipline as the chief determines, it's probably the right amount, that's another turning point that's going to pass us by. This is the time where we say enough is enough, right? If this is going to be the turning point, then we can't worry about what the contract says or what's right or his unblemished record. This is where we say this is too much and we have had enough. So let's actually make this the turning point.
I agree.
Councilwoman Surgeon?
Through you, Madam President, I've been on this council, we've been there a year now. We got sworn in January of this year. And I believe I've been very supportive of the Hartford Police Department, extremely supportive of the administration up until now. When Chief Thody basically, was applying for the position, one of the things I asked him to take a look at is more diversity in the sergeant, the lieutenant area. Oh, you're going to, fine. It'd be nice to have somebody, Black person as assistant chief. But I believe that the ranks of the sergeant, the lieutenants, those are the major supervisory persons in that department. And the diversity is not there. Citron versus Vaughn, when we first took office, we have the most diverse class. And we have had in tons of years. But little by little, the minority police officers who have been there for the last 4, 5, 6 years, they're leaving. They are not staying. So something is wrong. I don't know what it is, but from the outside as a council members setting policy for a city, we've been very supportive of this administration. At least I have been very supportive of this administration. But when you have no accountability, things for me change. I'm a fair person. I try to be fair. I try to look at both sides, and I try to provide support where it's needed. But once you ask me for support, what are you giving me back for my community? That's all I'm asking. The respect. And the administration, Councilman Sanchez, sure, it takes two of us to make this community work. But you can't ask the community to keep giving. You slap me on one side of the face, and I must turn the other side of the face and say, okay, slap me, keep slapping me again. The administration have to understand that they also need to take responsibility for the diversity that's needed at the lower level. And when you take a look, when you look at the climate report that I read through, and you see the young minorities who are leaving, who are going to Avon, Simsbury, East Hartford, after we invested so much money in training them, there's got to be something that is not working. And I will support and work with any administration to make those changes within the police department. Thank you.
Councilman Sanchez?
Yeah, so, and thank you for that, Councilwoman. So I do know several people that left the HPD, and I can tell you three things: better pay, less work, and better benefits. Those are three of the major things I've been hearing. Our officers apparently, don't receive the best pay, being that this is the capital of the state. But the surrounding towns do get better pay, better benefits. And the reality is less work. They don't deal with the crimes and the issues that we have here in the city. So, but going back to the resolution, this resolution calls for more accountability, is how I see it. It's not that I'm asking, it's not asking the community to put extra work towards the police department, but actually that we support the police department or the command leadership and help them support and enforce the code of conduct and the disciplinary action that they have to apply. So it's basically calling for more accountability.
Are there any other discussions? Any other discussions? Mr. Clerk, let me unmute you. And I can't do that. You need to unmute yourself. If you could please.
Okay. Councilwoman Bermudez.
No.
Councilman Clark.
No.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
No.
Councilman Mitchum.
No.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
No.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
No.
Motion failed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. That concludes our agenda this evening, but
No.
sorry.
25.
25.
You got the firefighter.
You're firefighter.
Firefighter.
Yeah, that was
Tentative agreement.
That was consented.
That was consented.
That was consented?
Yes, it was.
Oh, yay. Yes, it was.
Somebody put something on the,
Yes,
You,
the
Madam
marking
President.
sheet was then changed.
Yep, okay.
okay,
Get a revision.
Yep.
Yep,
for the
you're right.
sixth.
We're good. No more items.
Woo.
So that concludes
Time
our
record.
agenda, our last resolution for this evening. I want to take a moment of silence.
Oy, oy, are you kidding me?
I want to take a moment of silence because today marks the 8th year anniversary of the Sandy Hook victims. And I think that deserves a moment of silence. Thank you. To all of our viewers this evening, I want to thank you for your patience. We did have a lot of technical difficulties. Like always, we did get through. I want to extend the floor to any of my council colleagues who wish to say something. This is our last council meeting this year. It's been a pleasure working with you all and looking forward to doing great things next year. Councilwoman Surgeon.
Wow. Thank you, Madam President. I just want to thank all of our viewers and all the residents in the city of Hartford for all their support in this pandemic 2020 year. I think all the council members really, worked well together. This is a different way of meeting. It's a new way of meeting, but it's a great to actually that we're all safe, we're all sound, and I hope all the residents in the city of Hartford to keep safe. Have a what can we say? Happy holidays. I don't know if it is. We can't travel. We can't do anything, but just be safe. And spend your time, and thank God that that we're here. And we also have to remember the loved ones and for Hartford residents that we have lost this year, to the pandemic. My heart goes out to everyone. And so everyone, my council members, thank you guys. And if I don't speak with you until next year, be safe and take care.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sandra.
Bye. Bye,
Councilman
everyone.
LeBron. Bye. Councilman
Somebody,
LeBron.
Bye.
Merlin is like, good night.
Marilyn,
Oh,
you're
no.
not muted. Councilwoman Rossetti, you're not muted. I'm just saying.
I know, I was saying bye.
Okay. I'm just going.
Holidays.
I'm just going for the record. I just going for the record here that
Yes.
There's a lot of questions. We might as well go for the record here, but I know there's a lot of questions regarding COVID. In regards to FAQs around safe holidays, around COVID, return to work best practice, and I know we've all been getting phone calls around vaccine distribution. If folks would like answers to those questions, you could tune in on HPA-TV or log in to YouTube, the Health and Human Service Committee, where we addressed all of those items. So I leave it at that, and happy holidays to everyone in 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Mr. Clerk, thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
See you. Bye.